How are we, guys? The gloves are off with myself, Curtis Woodhouse. I woke up this morning and it came up on my Facebook that it was 11 years ago today that I won the English light welterweight title from Dave Ryan. I put on my social media post, this is a win of mine that gets massively overlooked because whenever my name comes up, people talk about me winning the British title, which is great, which is fine, which was my defining moment. But I always say this was the hardest fight of my career, physically for sure. Dave Ryan was so strong. It wasn't a massive puncher, but he hit you hard enough to really, shake you up without knocking you out, if that makes sense. But they're probably the worst because you sustain more damage over the period of the fight. But Dave was a very, very hard man. Very hard man. I mean, after I beat him, he went on to beat John Wayne Hibbert twice, who was very, very strong. A right handful was John Wayne Hibbert, stopping him once. He went and beat Paul McCloskey, great fighter. Went and beat Tyrone Nurse, former British champion. He lost to Sam Eggington on points, and his last fight of his career was against Josh Taylor. So, yeah, John Wayne Hibbert mixed in, not John Wayne Hibbert, Dave Ryan mixed in very, very good company, and it's a very, very good win by myself. I beat him on, I think it was a majority decision, maybe a split decision, but it was close. I dropped him in round 3 with a left hook from hell. He turned southpaw, and he leaned in with his right hand. I stepped back and bang. Couldn't hit him any cleaner. And as soon as I landed, I went to neutral corner, and I thought, whew, thank God for that. Thank God that's over. I think that was round 3. The first couple of rounds before that were hellish. And yeah, he got up. He was very, very hurt. But yeah, I couldn't believe he got up, to be honest. And backwards and forwards for the whole fight, it was very... When the bell went to end the 12th, it was one of them, I think I've got that, but, it was dead, dead close, and I managed to get the nod. It was a local fight to me. I was in the home corner, which probably made all the difference. But I did think I won. But yeah, it was a tough, tough night. 11 years ago. And I always say, after that fight, in fact, not after, so 12 weeks before this is wild, really. When I think about it now, 12 weeks before this, I fought Dale Miles in an eliminator for the British title, and I got stopped in the 5th round. Dale Miles, the hardest puncher I've ever been in with, and I got a double fracture of my cheekbone, and I broke my nose in that fight. And 12 weeks later, I'm boxing for the English title. So I hardly had any sparring. My face was still very, very fragile. But I needed the money, simple as that. The 10 round, I think I got paid $5,000 for the Dave Ryan fight. And I needed that money. And I wasn't in fantastic fettle. Because like I said, I couldn't really spar. My face was still a mess. Very, very sore. Coming off my first stoppage loss. So psychologically, I wasn't quite there. And then back-to-back fights took a lot out of me. I took a lot of punishment in that Dale Miles fight. If anyone has ever watched that fight, it's brutal. And then 12 weeks later, I jump in and fight Dave Ryan and have another brutal backwards and forwards fight. And that little period of my career, I always say it took so much out of me. I was never the same after those 2 fights. Up until the Dale Miles fight, I'd never been hurt in sparring, in any of my fights, never been hurt. And he hurt me every single round, shook me right down to my boots, and finished me off in round 5. And since that fight, I think I got wobbled in 85% of my fights after that. I don't know whether, because it was a bad knockout, and like I said, I suffered a lot of damage in them 2 fights. And I don't know whether the concussion that I had was probably not fully healed before I went into the Dave Ryan fight, and I just think I caused myself a lot of trouble, probably internally with my brain. I don't think I was ever quite the same. And like I said, I was wobbled in the majority of my fights after that. Even in spars, I was getting wobbled, and I've never been down in sparring, but I was getting wobbled and shook a little bit down to my boots by people who had been sparring my whole career and had never caused me any damage at all. But yeah, this little period in my career was very, very tough. And yeah, fantastic night. One of my best nights. I remember it was at the Magna, and it was a cracking fight, and the place was absolutely packed. I used to ram that place out, the Magna. We had a little beef as well in the at the weigh-in. Big Clifton Mitchell was his trainer and his manager. Me and him nearly came to blows. That was not a fight that I'd fancy my chances in. And because I couldn't spar, I struggled to make the weight because I wasn't doing the amount of work that I normally do to have to make 10 stone. So it was a real struggle to get down to 10 stone for that fight. And it was a 10 rounder for the English title. If that had been 12 rounds, I'm not sure that I wouldn't have got stopped, because by the end of the 10th, I had very, very little left in the tank. My legs were like feeling like jelly, taking quite a bit of punishment. As you can see in the picture, which I'll put on the thumbnail for this, my eyes closed. It's the same eye where I had a double fracture in my cheekbone. Went to hospital after, and it wasn't refractured again. It was just closed. I broke my nose in that fight. Like I said, I broke it 12 weeks before as well. It just went again. And I was just starting to feel like, whoa, this is getting hard. But yeah, luckily for me, it was only a 10-rounder. He finished very, very strong there. I think I lost probably the last 3 rounds for sure. He was sticking it on me. Like I said, he wasn't a massive puncher, but he hit you hard enough to think, oof, that hurt. And you know what? After our fight, we kind of kept in touch a little bit. We did a bit of sparring backwards and forwards. And Ryan Rhodes was training me. And we went over to his gym, and we did a 10-round spar. And I think he was preparing for the John Wayne Hibbert fight. Pretty sure he was. And after that spar, me, Ryan, Clifton, and Dave sat down and basically said, we ain't doing this again. We were just knocking lumps out of each other, and it was not beneficial for anybody. After that 10-round spar, I was like, whoa, wow, this is bloody hard. And yeah, we just had the one, and we kind of left it at that because, yeah, I think you put our two styles together and it was only going to end one way. I wouldn't say either of us were blessed with defensive skills, to say the least. So yeah, you put us together and you ended up with a war. And that's what we got on the night of the fight, and it managed to go my way. If I'd have lost that fight, wow, who knows where I'd have gone. Like I said, my previous fight before that was Dale Miles, where I lost in an eliminate for the British. I then dropped down to English title level. If I'd lost there, I'd have probably then dipped down to area title level to try and, win a title in my career. These little fine margins. And you know what? If I'd have beaten Dale Miles, I'd have then gone on to fight Darren Hamilton for the British title. And it'd have beat me back then, I think. I was less experienced. It'd have probably beat me back then. So me getting stopped by Dale Miles just derailed my career for maybe 18 months, 2 years. And that extra 2 years of having the hard fights with Dave Ryan and having a few more spars, a few more experiences, allowed me to just gather that a little bit more information that allowed me to just get over the line against Darren Hamilton and win the British title. At the time when I got knocked out by Dale Miles, I thought my world was coming to an end. That defeat really, really hit me hard because, getting outboxed wasn't something that really bothered me. You put me in a boxing ring with my missus. If we did, say, a 6-rounder, she'd probably be 5-0 up. I'd have to chin her to win in the last round. Anyone can outbox me. It's something that really bothered me. But yeah, Dale Miles beat me up and took my soul, really. In my last video, when I spoke about Anthony Joshua, about being out big catted, he's a big cat and a big Nigerian guy. Nobody puts him on the back foot and goes to beat him up. Then all of a sudden, Daniel Dubois steps to him, bashes him up, and it's like, oh, wow. Usyk outboxed him, which is absolutely fine. Usyk outboxed everybody. And Ruiz landed a lucky shot, really, in a fight that Joshua was completely dominating. But nobody had ever big catted Anthony Joshua. And I kind of felt that about myself. Nobody had ever, out-strengthened me in a fight when we stand there and say, okay, come on then, let's have it. I always came out on top in them type of fights. But yeah, Dale Miles was he had too many guns. I felt like I'd gone into a gunfight with a water pistol. I'll do another video about that Dale Miles fight. But yeah, 11 years ago today, I was crowned the champion of England. And I think this was probably it was the fight where people had to give me credit, because Dave was well respected within the boxing world. They had to give me credit. This was after I'd already lost to Frankie Gavin on a split decision, so people had kind of had to stop mocking me. But this was the fight where people had to tip their hat to me, the champion of England. And yeah, probably my hardest fight of my career, that and the Dale Miles fight for sure. But physically, this took me right to my limits. And yeah, 11 years today. I didn't have this 11 years ago today, I know that much. I certainly didn't have that. And I didn't have these chins I've got these days, but yeah, got the memories. And I said today on Twitter, you know, never the same. So I left something of myself in the ring that night, and it never came back. Never. Like I said, shook up in not every, but 80% of my fights after this, I was shook up. Dropped a couple of times by, I don't want to say non-punchers, but not huge punchers were putting me over. And yeah, that's boxing, isn't it? Every time, when you have hard fights, you are never the same. It might be that much sometimes it might be that much. Sometimes you've completely gone and you don't even realise until you get back in there. But yeah, a little piece of me died that night, and I never got it back. But would you change it? Someone asked me that on Twitter today. Yeah, but you wouldn't change it, would you? Makes me think, would I? Would I do it all again if I kind of know the hardships you have to go through? Who knows? A video for another time, I think, but it definitely made me think. You sacrifice a hell of a lot for peanuts as well if you're boxing down at my level. But yeah, a really, really proud night for me this was, to walk around and think I'm the best in England. That made me feel good. And like I said, the first time that people had to begrudgingly say, he's not bad, that lad. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys.